Senator Paul.
Thank you, and thank you for your testimony. I agree with you and with the President that we must confront and destroy ISIL. I think that, I'm well on record as being very skeptical about our interventions in the Middle East. I think that the original war in Iraq has led to more chaos and less stability. I think the President's war in Libya, as well as your intervention in Syria, have led to less stability and more radical Islam throughout the community and have actually enabled ISIL. I do also and have been a frequent critic of Secretary Clinton for not providing adequate security, though, for Benghazi and for the consulate. So I do think that there is an American interest in defending our embassy in Baghdad as well as our consulate in Erbil, and I want there to be some message going forward from this hearing today that there is obviously bipartisan support for defending American interests in Iraq. However, I am very disappointed, though, in the President for not obeying the Constitution. The Constitution is very clear. It gave the power to declare war to Congress. And you can say, hey, we're going to come back when it's convenient, but we're going to be committing war for the next 3 or 4 months, and we'll do as we please. That's not what the Constitution intended. The interesting thing about the creative logic that's used to say that a vote in 2001 has anything to do with today is that it seems to be acknowledged that, well, that allows us to do anything with forces that may be associated with terrorism or al-Qaeda. One of the interesting things is, if you look at Ambassador Ford's testimony, he will say that moderate forces have and will tactically coordinate with al-Qaeda linked to al-Nusra. So the interesting thing, if we use your logic and say the 2001 AUMF can be used to justify this, well, the 2001 AUMF could be used to justify going after the moderate Syrian rebels who are associated with al-Qaeda. So I think really anybody who's intellectually honest would say that the people who voted in 2001 to go to war with the people who attacked us on 9/11, the people who congregated in Afghanistan, has absolutely nothing to do with this. And really this committee, Congress, Senate, and the President are all abdicating their responsibility to vote for a new use of authorization of force, and that what you are doing now is illegal and unconstitutional. I think also from a practical point of view, it would be better to bring the country together. I think we would galvanize more support. It would be a bipartisan war. And had the President been a great leader, he should have come before a joint Congress. Instead of going on TV, should have come before a joint Congress and immediately asked for a resolution, and there should have been a vote. That would have been true leadership. There would have been true bipartisan support, and then really there would be less carping on both sides. The President also used to believe this. The President ran, and it was one of the large reasons the public went for the President initially, is he said no President should unilaterally go to war without the authority of Congress. So I liked the President as a candidate on this issue, but not so much as a President. The other problem with this is that, who are these moderate people? Are there really moderate Islamic rebels in Syria? Here's a quote, and I'd like your comment on this. Ryan Crocker, the distinguished former U.S. ambassador to both Iraq and Syria, said that the administration's knowledge about the non-ISIS opposition in Syria is that we need to do everything we can to figure out, this is Crocker, we need to do everything we can to figure out who the non-ISIS opposition is because, frankly, we don't have a clue. Most of the weapons we've been giving to the moderate rebels, they're sort of a stopping place. That's where they stop briefly before ISIS takes the weapons. Some of these, the Syrian National Revolutionary Front, have signed a ceasefire. Maybe not all of the vetted rebels are, but the Syrian Revolutionary Front has signed a ceasefire. So really, I argue, and I would believe, and I'd like to hear your comment, I think we have allowed there to be more of a safe haven for ISIL in giving weapons to the so-called moderate rebels, because really it's taken pressure off them. It's kept Assad at bay. And I think, contrary to what others have said here, had we bombed Assad last year, ISIL would be in Damascus. So I think we're lucky we didn't bomb Assad last year, and that we should be very careful about arming any Islamic rebels in Syria, because the weapons may not stay where they were intended, and they may have the unintended consequence of actually enabling ISIL. Your comments?
Well, we're not planning to, nor do we want to, nor have we armed Islamic folks in Syria. The United States doesn't do that, and we've opposed it, and Robert Ford will tell you that. And Robert Ford worked very hard to make sure that we weren't doing that. I also think it's good that you're going to hear from Robert Ford, because he will give you about as good an analysis of who the non-ISIS opposition is, and he'll break it down, point for point, because he did that for me on many occasions and articulated who they were and so forth. But he was also a passionate supporter of making certain that the moderate opposition got support, and he fought hard to get it more support than they did get. Absolutely. So I think he should do that for you. But let me just make it clear that I mean, I'm glad that you can guarantee that there would be a vote if the president sent something up here. I got 60 nominees. Some of them have been waiting more than a year to get a vote up here. And the chair and the ranking member have been terrific at helping to try to break them out. But they can't get a vote. So if you can tell the president you can absolutely guarantee a vote, I'd be really amazed.
I find it unbelievable that if the president came before a joint session of Congress and asked for use of force, that he wouldn't get a vote. I find it unthinkable. There's absolutely no way that you can imagine that he would not get a vote if he asked for it. So really, let's be honest. Politics are engaged here. People don't want to have a vote for the election. They're afraid of this vote. People are petrified, not of the enemy, but petrified of the electorate. That's why we're not having a vote.
Well, let me answer the first part of your question so that we make it crystal clear why the president is doing what he's doing. Because you are not insinuating, you are stating quite declaratively that the president has violated the Constitution. The president absolutely, clearly, by almost any legal standard that I can imagine, is not violating the Constitution. He's upholding it. Article 2 gives the president the power to do what he's doing. He has lived by the War Powers Act. He has sent countless notices up to the Congress. And I think every legal analysis suggests that while you may not like it—
if Article 2 gives unlimited power, why come at all?
Senator, let me just finish it all. Because he believes that the Congress ought to do this. And no one has—
But he doesn't believe he's bound.
The president has the right, as the president under Article 2, to defend this nation and to take the steps necessary to do so. The War Powers Act declares the terms under which you do that, Senator. You know that. And he has lived absolutely within that constitutional prerogative. Secondly, like it or not, and I can agree, I think you can find reasons to be uncomfortable. That doesn't mean it's not legal. And the chairman of this committee is appropriately going to try to recalibrate the AUMF, which we support entirely. We welcome the opportunity to have it recalibrated. It should be. But for the moment, the president believes we need to move now, and that is a full and appropriate exercise of constitutional power.
And for the record, that'll be after the election.
Senator Kane.